just mock these victims. He said that their killers should have raped them first before executing them. He actually said this on his show. Listen.
How's it going?
All right.
This is Howard?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I lived like a mile and a half from the school, man. I had a couple friends that were there, and I talked to them yesterday.
What'd they say?
They said that it was just a bunch of chaos, shooting, and...
Boy, a bunch of good-looking girls go to that school. That guy was right. The guy who called in, he was a little too excited, but... There was really good-looking girls running out of there with their hands over their heads.
Yeah, I say the bomb teams are still working.
Did those kids try to have sex with any of the good-looking girls? They didn't even do that. At least if you're going to go kill yourself and kill all the kids, like, why wouldn't you have some sex?
Yeah, I would think that I would want some sex, probably.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to kill some people, I'd take them out with some sex.
I guess they were getting a rush from what they were doing.
They said when these guys were really against the good-looking girls because the good-looking girls wouldn't pay attention to them. I think the good-looking girls would be begging them to live, and they go, "You don't have to beg because you're going to be dead in a minute."
Yeah, don't cry.
Don't cry. Yes.
So that's pretty much the most vile thing a human being could possibly say. I mean, that's like the worst. Now, I personally give people a lot of leeway for jokes, quote unquote, made years ago in a different time when people weren't as sensitive and edgy humor wasn't as edgy back then. It was a different world, it was a different culture. But this is way beyond the bounds of what would have been considered remotely acceptable even in the 90s. This is, again, perhaps the worst thing I've ever heard anyone say ever. It's the kind of thing how could that even come to your mind? How are you even thinking about that? He's not only joking about a school shooting right after it happened, this was a day later. You have to understand something about Columbine when it happened. I mean, this was, of course, any school shooting is a terrible tragedy, very sad. But at the time, this was, for Columbine, for those who lived through it, it was like similar to 9/11, before 9/11 happened. Just the effect it had on the country. Just the kind of shell shock that most people were experiencing the next day and for weeks after. And here he is a day later telling quote unquote jokes about how the kids who were just killed should have been raped.